My name is Mark Vitelli. I am a counselor here at Annandale High School. And we have 3 representatives from area colleges. Jamie Didawick from James Madison University, Kelly Cardew from George Mason, and Michelle Stinson from American University. To get started, I just want to let you guys introduce yourselves. And if you want to say what's a good icebreaker, what's your favorite trivia fact about your school? Jamie, do you want to go first?
Sure. I was gonna say, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Didawick. I am a senior assistant director with JMU's Office of Admissions. I've been there for more than 11 years now, and I'm also a JMU alumni, so kind of pardon any bias I might have towards our school. Let's see. I actually am the admissions counselor for Annandale, and I have been for about 8 years. So I'm very familiar with the Adams and the AB and the IB program and everything that you offer too. And I'm really glad to be here this evening. And then let's see, fun fact about JMU. One of my favorite traditions, I've got 2, but I'll pick one, is what the students call Duke's Hold Doors. And everyone on campus holds doors, students, faculty, staff, everybody, especially when you're walking into a building, you always check behind you and make sure no one's coming, or someone's coming, you'll hold the door for them. And it's just a really neat kind of tradition that we've had going on for a long time at JMU.
That's very, very polite tradition. That's good. Michelle, would you like to speak about American?
Hi, so my name is Michelle Stinson. I'm an assistant director of admissions at American University. I work with students who attend high school in DC and also Virginia. So I'll be your point of contact if you're looking to apply to AU. So a couple of fun facts. One, we're the first carbon neutral campus in the United States. And another cool one is one of our notable alums, Judge Judy. So I think she's pretty great. So, but yeah, glad to be here.
Right. I mean, I was surprised she didn't make it to the Supreme Court once again. Judge Judy did not rise to the level, but good fact. Good. I didn't know that one. Kelly, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, guys. My name is Kelly Cardew. I am an assistant director of admissions at George Mason University. While I am not the point counselor or contact for Annandale, I am stepping in for one of my coworkers. But of course, I'm happy to be here. All of us in our office work with students from all across Northern Virginia. So I'm super happy to be here as well. Fun fact about Mason, if you've been on campus before, you've seen these little guys. If you haven't, we have robots on campus that deliver food, Starbucks, whatever item that you would like that, you can consume. We have little robots that kind of go around. So super handy during the pandemic. We actually got them before the pandemic. So, but just ended up being a nice little bonus there.
That is a very fun fact. Good. Thank you. So for our students and parents, I right now have it so that you can't turn on your microphones, but if you would like any questions that come up, please use the chat and we can pass that on to our panelists. So, and this is for everybody live, but also, we're recording for future. The main subjects we wanted to go over today really are just, since the audience here is junior parents and seniors, so the what they have to look forward to as far as what to do for the summer, steps in the application process to be aware of for coming up in the fall, and that includes like doing visits and how to do searches and how to contact reps, you guys or anybody else at the schools, and then some other questions, and then also we'll do a little information about different admissions criteria, how they're weighted, and what students can know to focus on or keep an eye out. We have a separate presentation on financial aid, but time willing, I'd like to get a little feedback from each of you, is just sort of like how that process works for your schools and how those offers are made. So I wanted to just start with kind of an overview of the application process and really what it looks like from your end as reps. Jamie, you said you wanted to do the admissions criteria. So Michelle or Kelly, would you like to take that with a just an overview of what the application process looks like from your end as reps?
Sure. So I know for our end at AU, with the admissions process, and just with any school too, just make sure you're aware of those specific deadlines for each school. Some of them might be quite similar, but others, so like for AU, we only have early decision. We have 2 early decision deadlines and then a regular decision instead of that early action. So just kind of like being aware of when specific pieces of the application are due. And the website, and also if you receive information from these specific schools, you're going to get lots of emails about, when those things are going to be due. But that's like one of the most important first parts, just knowing when things are due, but then also if that school has a specific application process with like Common App, Coalition. And for AU, we have both of those. We accept both of those, but just being aware of those things. And then just to kind of like pass it off to someone else too. Is that kind of what you were hoping we would do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to be able to give the information for, people that are maybe less, not familiar with the whole.
We're a little frozen. Okay. Well, I can sub in real quick. So I think what he was maybe going for is just kind of maybe digesting some of the vocabulary of what is in an application process. I know Michelle mentioned kind of deadlines. That's a huge, obviously, part of applying to college. Obviously, deadlines become really important when you get to college, turning in those papers, that homework, all that kind of stuff. So getting, submitting applications is a really good start into understanding and learning about how you work in those deadlines kind of thing. So I think the biggest thing to always remember, and I know Jamie will kind of talk about different admissions criteria, things like that. It's always important to remember that every school is different. Every institution is going to have a little bit different way that they go about things. A lot of us are going to have similarities, but sometimes those dates are actually going to be different. There are a couple different types of deadlines. So I'll kind of like break down those. And if you guys, Michelle and Jamie, if you guys want to join in. So a couple to keep in mind. I know Michelle mentioned early decision. So early decision deadline is going to be that binding decision deadline, essentially meaning that if you apply to that university or that college and you get admitted to that school, then you are kind of saying, yes, I am committing right here, right now, and I am wanting to go to that school. And Michelle can speak a little bit more on the specifics because my school does not have early decision. I don't believe Jamie does either. So I can talk a little bit more about the ones that at least Mason uses. And a lot of other institutions use as well. The other early decision deadline is called early action. And essentially what this means is that you still get the benefits of getting your decision early, but you are not then committing to that school that you are admitted to. So what that's going to mean, and again, this is going to be different. The dates are going to be different from every institution. But at Mason, early action means that you can apply by November 1st. If you get your application in by that point, you're going to get your decision early to mid-December, kind of right before that winter break. And then you don't have to let us know of your decision until May 1st. And May 1st is kind of the national deposit deadline that we're all, getting ready to approach. And so the early action kind of deadline gives you a little bit more time to consider your options, think about, go back, visit schools, those kinds of things. But again, it's meaning that you're not then committing to going back to that school if you're admitted. Another deadline type is called regular decision. That's typically might be a little bit later in the year. At Mason, our regular decision is February 1st. Again, going to look different for every school. At Mason, our regular decision is also what we call a rolling admissions basis, meaning that as soon as applications become complete, which at Mason, it means that we have your transcript. And, if you want to provide other documents to us, that's great. But once applications kind of become complete, we're reviewing them at a little bit, we're reviewing them and getting the decisions out the door a little bit quicker, versus with the early action, we kind of wait until we have a big bulk of them and then send them out. So that's a little bit of those differences. If you guys maybe want to chime in and add some things.
Michelle, you can talk about ED and ED2 maybe, because that's something we don't have for sure.
Okay, yeah, sure. So early decision 1 and 2, the difference between those at American University is just the date. So early decision 1 would be due to by November the 15th. Students would find out by before December 31st. And then early decision 2 is due January the 15th. Students will find out their decisions by February 14th. But then we also have regular decision, which is also due January the 15th, and students find out those decisions by or before April 1st. Even though it's kind of weird that we're giving decisions right around these specific holidays, we usually try to give those decisions like a couple of weeks before, and we email students to let them know, hey, check your portal. But for early decision 1 and 2, basically, if you're making a list of schools that are at the top of your list, as far as what you're looking for in a school, and if, for us, like if AU happens to be at the top of your list and you're making these lists and just feeling like, okay, this is where I want to be, early decision could be a great option for you. Now, with that still being the case, it is a big decision to make. So it is binding. So if you apply early decision to AU and you're admitted, you would then withdraw applications from other schools because you're just saying, I love AU so much that I want to go there and that I would go there if I were admitted. So keeping that in mind, along with information like financial aid or and things like that too, I think it's very good to have this understanding of scholarships, need-based aid, and with each school. So if you're applying early decision, being aware of that as well. But also if that's something that's kind of got you, if you're applying early decision, we want you to feel 100% about it. So if there's anything holding you back from making that decision, just apply regular decision. Most of our applicants, most of our incoming class are admitted through the regular decision applicant pool. So with this process, just really do whatever is best for you and making sure you're having those conversations with the people in your home too. And then I saw also there was a question. So for early decision for American, there are smaller applicant pools. So the admit rate is higher because it's a smaller number. But also keep in mind that, most our larger applicant pool is regular decision, but early decision is a great way to show your interest, but it's a great way to show your interest if you are fully sure that you want to attend a school that you're applying early decision to. So basically, just want to make sure you feel as confident and feel as good about the decision that you're making, especially when you're making that kind of early decision choice. So yeah, and feel free to let me know if you have any other questions about early decision, but I'll just hand this back over. Jamie or Mark, I know Mark is back in.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because I was going to ask you, because you've explained that, but Kelly, does Mason kind of distinguish anything between early and regular?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's going to raise your chances of admission. I will say, though, that more of our applicant pool, especially in the last couple of years, is going to apply in that early action decision, just because, again, you're getting that decision early. And I will also say with our early action at Mason, there are a couple benefits. One of them meaning that you're going to be automatically considered for merit scholarship. Merit scholarship is going to be based on a student's academics, their GPA, that kind of thing. And so if you apply by our early action deadline, you're going to be in that pool of consideration. We can't guarantee any type of, we don't guarantee merit aid for every single student who applies early action. That unfortunately is not going to be sustainable for us as an institution. And we also can't guarantee aid from the admissions office during that regular decision pool. So it's really great to try to apply by early action and be in that consideration. Our early action deadline is also the priority deadline for our honors college, which I'm happy to talk a little bit more about throughout this evening, as well as the priority deadline for our nursing program. So we do have a direct entry nursing program at Mason now. And so if you are really interested in Mason and being in a 4-year BSN program, that early action is going to be the priority for that.
Very good. And then for JMU, we don't give any preference between the two. We have early action and regular decision. And yes, early action has been trending up. So I'm going to say we don't mind if you apply regular decision because it kind of spreads out the love a little bit. But you do have the benefits, like everyone said, about hearing a decision sooner. And I will say too, and then my colleagues can echo this, but you're not at a disadvantage or an advantage by applying one or the other necessarily. And then some students are a little kind of get shied away from applying early action because we could deny a student early, defer them, or admit them. So if a student is denied early action, then they can at least rest assured that we know that they would not have been competitive for regular decision. And in some ways, I say that's a blessing in disguise because that's not going to be an option for you a little bit sooner, and you've got time to apply to other universities. And then if you are not admitted early action or early decision, Michelle, do you all defer from early decision to regular or no?
No, we don't.
Okay, cool. So I'll talk about defer. And again, it's a good theme of the evening. It'll all be a little bit different. But so for JMU, and I think Mason as well, if you are not admitted early action, but we still want to consider you for the regular decision process, we'll do something called defer. And then we'll move your application from the early action pool automatically to the regular decision pool. And basically for us, that's as if you had applied regular. And then at that point, we have got access to your senior year, mid-year grades. We can see how you're doing if it needs to be a factor of admission. So being deferred, again, just means that college wants to take a second look at you because we don't know what the regular decision pool is going to look like. It could be really strong, it could be not as strong. And so that's going to help us give us a clearer picture of what the whole class is going to be at the end of the day.
Yeah, and kind of going along the theme of our schools being different, we actually do a little bit different process. We just don't call it a defer. We might what we just call it is just we're going to mid-year you. So we're going to ask, we're going to look at your early action application and look at everything. And again, to that same point, though, we're going to be like, all right, like we see what we see, but we really want to see how your first semester grades go. And then that kind of naturally puts you in that time frame of regular decision, but you're still going to have your early action kind of tag on your application so that you essentially, once we get that mid-year report, your application kind of goes more to the top of the list so that we can make sure that we get your decision.
I like that. And then this is a good reminder, juniors, that senior year is coming. And I always encourage my students, it's not a good thing to get that senioritis that you've heard about, I'm sure, because your mid-year grades really can play a big role. And that also is, if nothing else, even if colleges never see your mid-year grades, you want to have that momentum that's going to carry you into your freshman year of college, because that's a big transition. You're on your own, you're going away from home. No one's, over your shoulder going, did you finish your homework? Nope, not going to happen. So you want to take advantage of your senior year and really keep working towards finishing strong and as strong as you possibly can. So I always make my students say, I will not get senioritis. So I hope none of my Adams will either.
Jamie, Kelly, Michelle, thank you so much for continuing on while
we got you, Mark.
Work and the internet died, and I just anyways, it sounds like you were covering exactly what we were hoping to. So thank you for that. You were talking about the early and regular decision. Is that all I missed? Or were you just discussing?
Yeah, we talked about the processes, and I see a question in the chat that we should address too. Is
Sure.
the deposit if you change your mind after being accepted, early decision, early action. So we should talk about the deposit timeline too.
Go
So we're
for
gonna,
it, yeah.
we're gonna talk about timelines. And so we mentioned earlier that May 1st is kind of the national deposit deadline for students who have not been admitted. You know, if you're admitted early decision, then you're done. You're paid your deposit. You're good to go. But for students, everybody else is still deciding, and you can deposit at any point. You know, we've had students deposit 2 minutes after we release decisions, or midnight, not recommended, on May 1st. And so you've got that time to pay your deposit. And what that means to pay your deposit is you're putting down a chunk of money that says, yes, I plan on attending this university in the fall. And for most, not all, that deposit is refundable prior to May 1st, not for everybody. And so you'll want to make sure you check the college's website and the fine lines and the rules. But for the majority of us included, you have until May 1st to get your deposit back if you change your mind. So there's a few things at play. Sometimes you want to be done with it, make your deposit early and call it a day. Sometimes you might want some more time to decide, see your full financial aid package. It's really comes down to whatever's the best fit for your family. But after May 1st, there's probably very few, if any, colleges that are going to refund your deposit at that point. And, for us, it's $400. My colleagues can say what theirs are. So you can kind of get a sense of how much money you'd be losing if you were to, say, get pulled off the wait list from another university. You can still go, but you'll lose that deposit money. And that for us is an incentive, and it's a way of gauging our class. How many students are coming? Do we need to go to the wait list? That's something we haven't talked about yet either. After May 1st, colleges use the wait list as a way to fill any remaining spots in their freshman class. We all have kind of a target number of spots we're hoping to get. It's a very interesting thing to see play out. So that deposit says, yes, I'm coming, and then it can help us plan for our incoming freshman class.
And I wanted to, in the application process, because this is something that comes up to me a lot just as the counselor, but and you guys are here as the reps. Kelly, you said you're not the normal one for Annandale, but there are designated reps from each school for our high school. And every time most of the times when I'm fielding questions from students about their applications, I'm encouraging them to contact the reps.
Yeah.
Because that's what you guys do. And it's the easiest way to get the right information specific to that school, and, to get somebody to give you some direct feedback, instead of if there's questions or things that you don't have from the website. So Michelle, do you want to talk about that? Because we don't have as many kids apply to AU, but it is still close by. So, if somebody if they're looking for information about AU, what's the easiest way to contact you or to reach that information about American?
So if you're interested in learning more about American University, I recommend just going to our website. So it's american.edu/admissions. And that gives you an overall just glimpse into our requirements, so things that we're looking for, but then also ways that you can engage with us. So I recommend doing a few things, especially if you're really interested in a school. So at AU, we have recordings of webinars. We also have options. Thank you. Thanks, Jamie. We also have different ways that you can engage with us virtually and also in person. So I recommend just kind of looking at the website. I think one of the best things to do also, if you have a subject that you're interested in, just make sure that we have the subject, because I'd hate for you to do all of that work and then realize I want to do nursing and you all don't have nursing. So just kind of familiarize yourself with the website, but then also going to that admissions page, and there's an option for you can put in what state you attend high school in, and then it'll pull up your admissions rep. So I'll be the person that will come up, and my contact information as well. But along with that, just engaging with AU and with other schools too, high school visits. So in the fall, we'll be doing high school visits. And along with that, coming to college fairs in the area, but also because AU is close to Annandale, I recommend, if you're able to, coming to campus to visit for an information session and a tour. So those are just some of the ways, but also I understand if you're kind of like, do I want to go visit campus yet? So just looking on the website, looking at some of our recordings, and especially with junior year, I think it's great to kind of think about where places that you can, like, what are you looking for, from schools? And so one of the questions that just came through about demonstrated interest. So we do look at demonstrated interest, and the specific way that AU looks at demonstrated interest is through, if I were to come to do a high school visit, that's something that would be recorded. So not necessarily through email, but more so if you watch a virtual session that we have online, or if you come to campus. Those kind of touch points are great ways to show that demonstrated interest. And, if you sign up to receive information, you'll be aware of when we have events, and just based off of whatever schools that you're interested in, being aware of those kinds of things. So that's a great question, Kennedy, as well. But yeah, so we do look at demonstrated interest and just how you are able to engage. And I think with the pandemic, it has helped to really underscore this aspect that, yes, it's very important to go to campus to visit. Even if you're near or far, though, maybe that doesn't work with your schedule to be able to get to campus at a certain point. Some people come to campus after they've been admitted. So I think those virtual options, using those to your benefit, are going to be really helpful for you, for me to be able to be more acquainted with you, but then also for you to feel like, is this a place that I want to apply, visit, and attend?
And let me just, I with you guys here, I want to also use this as a time for me to, see that I'm not misunderstanding or dispel myths, or maybe just clear up. But my understanding is that, one of the things about the demonstrated interest is students apply to a lot of schools, and it helps, and you as the colleges know this. And if you have indications that somebody is more interested, or that they're more, if they've shown interest, they're more likely to actually be going, as opposed to, people that apply to 12 different schools, and it gives you an idea of who may be more actually interested in attending versus just applying. Does that sound right?
I can. We at JMU, we don't use it. It can help basically at the waitlist portion of the cycle. At that point, we want to make faster moves, and if someone says they're more interested and they're still competitive, then that would help there. But as far as the process goes throughout the time, no. But it can't hurt, because all the things that Michelle touched on for demonstrated interest are also things that you're going to benefit from. So there's really no harm in doing it for the colleges that you're interested in. Attending a virtual session. COVID has been so tough, but it's so amazing to be able to have these panels that we can record. We used to come in person and do these, and then if you didn't make it, then you missed out on this great information. But now you're going to have this information for a long time, and you can zoom into a school in California, from Annandale, and that's really cool. So it's a good thing to kind of take advantage of. But maybe if there's some schools that really rise to the top 2 or 3, maybe you spend a little bit more time reaching out to them or being engaged with them in different ways.
We have a question in the chat is about, understand fall visits are better, but as you see students, you get to see what life is like on campus. But what would you say about, is there anything negative about summer visits for students that want to be able to take time and are anxious to do that over the summer?
I think no. I think it's a great time. Yeah. I mean, and you go into it with the notion that campus is going to be a little bit quieter. So those are your expectations that you'll want to set. But summer is such a good time where you've got more time and flexibility. So I think all of us would encourage you not only to take a tour, because we do, we all do summer tours as well, and see the campus, but spend time in the surrounding area. Explore DC, explore Fairfax, explore Harrisonburg, spend the night and, eat in a local restaurant and talk to the people there and spend that extra time. And then the summer, you can really start to whittle down your list. So you could say, I could visit and say, oh, I didn't really like the campus feel at XYZ University. I don't need to go back. So I say an in-person visit is still going to be a benefit whether you like it or not, because it's, even if you don't like it, that's one less place to apply. So I think it's a really, really good thing to come in the summer too.
Yeah, I would say too, I think what's great about being able to go during the summer, again, just like Jamie said, you naturally are probably going to have a little bit more time to, to go maybe make a trip and like visit a bunch of schools in an amount of time. And obviously what's great about this area is that you can do this all from your house essentially. You don't maybe have to spend the night kind of thing, because there's so many universities, colleges within a couple hours drive, which is really nice. But I think what's great about doing a summer tour, it means that you still can go back to that school later on for an event. And kind of like Michelle touched on, we all do tons of events throughout the academic year, some that are a little bit more tailored to specific populations. So by being able to go during the summer, that's kind of that opportunity to get that first look at the campus, to actually, to Jamie's point, to kind of say, okay, like I really like this campus. Like I want to keep learning more about it. And I want to go back when I, maybe after I've applied and I've started to think a little bit more about what I want to do in college. Because then when you go back to that campus, that's when those kind of smaller details are really going to come kind of like glare, like smack you in the face almost. That's really when you're going to figure out, okay, I don't want to go here, or I really want to go here. At least that's, kind of my thought on it. During the fall is going to be a lot more of kind of those like open houses, and you get to see more students and you get to interact more with academic representatives or student life, or excuse me, like campus resources. And then typically in the springtime is when we're going to even tailor those events more specifically to like admitted students kind of thing. So there's a little bit finer tune on, okay, we want to really show you this because we know you're considering us for the fall kind of thing. So I think it's a good idea to kind of think about it, but with, again, really setting the expectation that you might not see as many people on campus in the summer. Also, you might not get to see a residence hall because we utilize real students' rooms sometimes, and the housing offices, they have their own schedules and doing things. So I think it's just important to set those expectations, to not get frustrated if you can't see that thing, because likely if you are really excited about that school later down the road, you will have other opportunities to do so.
Thank you, guys. That's and I want to go on because let's just do it quickly. We have a Kennedy asked in the chat, how many colleges do you recommend applying to? I'm curious what you think, because I know what I tell kids, but I don't know if that's something that appears from your side.
I don't know if I have like a specific number, but I don't think it's necessary to apply to more than, tons and tons of schools. I think maybe a list of 10, maybe even less than that.
Mm-hmm.
But more than 10 is just going to get expensive. It's going to get overwhelming. So I think even less than 10 would be more ideal, but maybe if you're just really, thinking about that, that's, you really want a number, but probably closer to that like 5-6 range. At least that's my opinion.
I would say, yeah, ideal 3 to 5, even ideally, I mean,
right.
Yeah, those are application fees. And then if you start getting a lot of admission offers, then it starts to muddy the waters too. So it's not so much the number that you recommend, but it's who you are applying to. Yeah, like Michelle said, like if you're going to apply to only Ivy League schools,
yeah,
that's probably not a smart move. You want to apply to maybe one, your number one school, or if you have one, and then if maybe a couple, right, that you feel mostly confident about getting into and you can really see yourself, and then maybe one where it's like, I want to just kind of solidify a 4-year option of a place that I know, we call it like a sure shot, something I know that I'm pretty confident, my counselor's confident that I could be admitted to. And that's all you need, really. But Michelle, you can take it too.
Oh, no, yeah, especially all I'm thinking about is just like the money for applying to all of these schools. And then I feel like it becomes even more, even if, if you're applying through Common App and all of that, still, it's just overwhelming. You want to make sure everything is where it needs to be. And like you said, you don't want to muddy the waters of, oh, this other school is admitting me over here. What should I like? I don't want students to make senior year harder for themselves or more stressful than it already is. So yeah.
I would also say too, like it's important to utilize the help and support of your counselors because they know they know a lot of schools and university, they know these things. And so it's good to utilize their assistance as you're considering your schools kind of thing. I think I was just at a panel a couple weeks ago and I got a lot of great information from the panelists that I was along with. And I think it goes to show that, this area is, we know it's really competitive. We have, students are going on to do incredible things all across this area. And so it's really easy sometimes to get caught up in like, oh, I have to apply to this many schools or these super prestigious schools kind of thing. And so it's really important to create a list of schools that if you got admitted to any of them, you'd be excited and happy to go to. And, kind of understanding how, maybe some of them do have similarities, but maybe some of them have some differences in those institutions too.
Yeah, thank you. That I think, and saying like as the way I talk to students about this is throughout the process. I think what I encourage most is like more information. The more information you can get about every school you're applying to, but then and then being aware of your options. I think there's more options than you're aware of, right? There's always going to be a few schools that you know about, but there's always more that you're maybe not aware of or majors they have. Like there's always things that you're not aware of. So just trying to like increase your understanding of how many options you have and that you will have multiple options. Everybody gets caught up in like what schools they can get into, but you will have multiple options. And then finally, like really prioritize your feelings about the schools. And it's really easy to get caught up in looking for rankings and trying to find where other people are going, and the most hard to get into schools are the most well-known schools. But that as far as narrowing that list down, like you said, Kelly, applying to schools that you really want to go to. And the schools you apply to should be all schools that you would love to go to. And there really will be multiple options. It's good to apply to, a fair amount, and 3 to 5 sounded great to me. That these are all schools that, you can try for ones maybe you don't know if you're going to get into, but for the most part, you're going to have more options. And so prioritize like how you feel. And that goes back to visiting the schools too, which is you can't beat being there in person. You can't beat talking to people from that school to give you more information about it. And then the more informed you are, the better you're going to be able to trust your gut as to which school is right for you. So that's that's the summary of like how I would discuss it with them. We're running to the end here a little bit of our time, but I think we can just keep going if everybody wants to. But I would like to hear a little bit about some of the admissions criteria, because this is something that comes up with students. One specific, I don't know who would like to talk about it, but just how essays, the college essays, how they are reviewed and what role they play in the admissions process for you guys.
I'll defer that because they're an optional part of our process.
Very good.
I'll speak on it. So for our application process, it's holistic. So with that holistic aspect, that means that whatever you're submitting, we are reviewing, and generally it's going to be something that can add to your application. So with the essay, I think one of the so it's something that is required for us. So we are on Common App and also the Coalition app. So we have that main essay, the topics, the questions, prompts are generally the same each year for the most part, but just make sure you're answering the prompts. Something else to grammar, have someone you trust proofread it for you as well. But then also, so something that I was at a college application workshop last summer, something that one of my colleagues said from a different school was, basically, it doesn't matter if the admissions representative likes your essay as long as it's not offensive, but whatever you decide to talk about. So if you're wanting to talk about something that is very close to you, like that is important for you if you want to share that, feel free to. But at AU, like we look at it as a writing sample. We just want to make sure you answer that prompt. You can have your thought, whatever that process is for you, and then you're able to close it out. But also it really helps when you're able to tell us something about you. In a lot of cases, something about you that we couldn't get from any other part of the application. But also I know that with essays and with writing, I think it could be this idea of something that's big and grand. And then it's like, how am I supposed to really, I think it can become something that's more stressful than it needs to be. So I think it's good to kind of take a step back and think, this is a writing sample. So I just want to make sure that I'm answering the prompt, that the grammar is where it needs to be. So that is something that's important to us. We do have a supplemental question. It's just asking, why are you interested in American University? It is optional. So that's not going to be something that it comes down to as far as if you're admitted or not, but it is helpful for us to know. I think, DC is a great pull, but there are multiple schools in DC. So what about American University? Do you see yourself like really just appreciating if you were to be a student there? So those are the things about with the essay at American University.
Yeah, I would just kind of echo too, because at Mason, like we're excuse me, that's something different. We're talking about essays. So we do review students holistically, which again, as a reminder, that just essentially means like we want to see everything that makes up who you are. We're going to value it equally. And so we don't require that essay, but we like to see that because that's showing a little bit more of who you are. And to kind of reiterate what Michelle said, we like to see it when we haven't seen, like we like for that essay to be something we haven't seen in your application yet, because that means that it's something that you are, that you love about whatever that topic is, or maybe it's a hardship or something that you've gone through and that you've, grown from it, or whatever the topic is. But it's really important to select a topic that means something to you, not just what you think we're going to want to read kind of thing. Because, it doesn't matter what we think. It matters more about who you are and how you're displaying that kind of thing. And I would also say too, again, to go off the theme of every school is different. So some schools are going to have those essay requirements. Some essays are going to be very specific to that institution and that university. Some of them are going to be maybe a little bit harder essay prompts kind of thing. So it's just, again, important to understand what those requirements are. And especially, like Michelle said, if it's a question that's very specific to the institution, really think about that. And what does that mean to you? Not just kind of that, oh yeah, DC is great kind of thing, but like, what is it about it? Because we want to know like why you like our school, because it shows that you want to come here.
And proofread too, because Kelly, how many times have you read, I can't wait to go to James Madison University? Because I sure have read, I can't wait to go to George Mason University.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
We won't deny you for that. But
was that for me in my recommendation?
Oh no, I didn't even think about that. I suppose we see it. We give you a lot of grace. Don't worry.
Please. No, thank you. That kind of does back up what I always, say to students is like the essay is your chance to show who you are. It's you. It's your personality. So focusing on something that you means something to you will give anybody reading it the best idea of who you are and just the way you write, and that's all going to come out if you're writing about something you care about. And Michelle, thank you for pointing out. I don't usually bring that up, but just as like a example of writing is also an important thing. Like, how does that? Yeah. So that's essay. Now you slipped into it, Kelly. So asking about scores. I guess I know they're score optional. Actually, I don't know if what American is, but I know Mason is score optional. So can you tell us about what that means, and then how you use the standardized tests?
Sure, yeah. So Mason, like we were saying, we are score optional, meaning that if you want to submit standardized test scores, SAT or ACT, that's great. That's going to be an additional, a factor in your application. Not that it's being weighed higher than anything else, but it's just showing, yeah, I did this and I think I did a great job. So, but that also means that you're not required to submit a test score in order to receive an admissions decision. So it's not going to hold up your application if you don't submit your test score, kind of thing. And so Mason, again, is in that score optional kind of frame. It's important to recognize that a lot of schools have been score optional for a really long time, but a lot of schools have only been score optional because of the pandemic. Some will decide to stay score optional for the rest of time. Others might switch back to requiring test scores. So this is a really crucial time as high school juniors to recognize that. But at least at Mason, we've been score optional for almost 10 years at this point. So that is really, that's the way we're going at it. And so, again, just reiterating that you don't have to submit a test score if you're going into a certain major, if you're going into the honors college or anything like that. It really is truly score optional across the board.
Michelle, I wanted to ask you about AU, but I just put in the chat. I wanted to put in that we have that if you wanted to go to one of the other breakout rooms for questions, I just put the link there. Anybody that wanted to get some things from the other ones will continue here. But if you had questions about the financial aid or NOVA, those sessions will still be active. So yeah, since I'm less familiar with it too, Michelle, what's the how do you review tests for AU?
So at AU, we've been test optional for about 12 years. And so with that, just similar to what Kelly was saying, as far as, and if you're thinking about submitting test scores, I just recommend, like, with whatever decision you're looking to make based off of whatever school you're looking to apply to, just look at their website. So if you're thinking about submitting scores, look at the mid-range, because that middle 50%, we admit 25% above that, but also 25% below that. We want you to be as confident as possible in whatever you're deciding to submit. We do super score, and we also do self-reporting. So on that application process, you could submit those scores if you'd like. But yeah, and also similar to what Kelly mentioned too, you don't have to submit like fully test optional. So not only for the admission, but also for merit scholarships. So all students are automatically considered for merit aid, but then also for those special academic programs. So like the honors program as well. Test optional students are also admitted into those programs.
Thank you. And I mean, right, then what I tell students is if a school lists that they are score optional, that means they really are score optional, so that it's not like a there's no hinting that like it would be better if you took the test. If they're score optional, then they're really will be considering your applications fully if you don't turn in test scores.
Yeah. And also I think something important too, it's just based off of questions that I've gotten before in information sessions. It is none of our business as to why you decide to apply test optional. So I've seen in additional information, and some students, I think it was just really important to them that they share that like they signed up for the test 3 times, and each time from the pandemic, it was canceled. So feel free if you want to share that, but it's none of our business. So even if you were like, I took it how many ever times and I don't want you to see the score, you don't have to let us know that either. I just want students to feel confident and about what they decide to submit, that they feel like they're putting their best foot forward. But yeah, especially with that, whatever your decision is, it's your decision.
Thank you. Jamie, just in case, I mean, if you get kicked off.
Got 5 minutes before I'm getting a
All right, well, if I don't say so, just if we do get cut off, thank you so much for being here. Really
Oh God.
appreciate it. Also for you taking over, co-hosting duties as I got cut off myself. I would like to go back then and see if you guys could each, maybe Jamie, you can first before you get kicked out. Kennedy put a question in here, which I think is a good one. She was just saying that just as far as like what the, as far as importance of factors on the application, she gave some numbers here. But just from your perspective, between grades, essay, recommendation letters, extracurriculars, and other factors, would you say that there's a ranking as to what's most important, or is it really considering everything?
Everyone's going to be different. And it's for us, the number one thing is not even listed on there, and that is the rigor of your curriculum. And that's a big thing. So a lot of schools, really break down the transcript. I know for JMU specifically too, and I know UVA does this, is we really analyze what classes did you take? How far did you go in the core areas? We're wanting to see you mirror the advanced diploma, which is all the core areas that covered. And then we really specifically want to see IB classes or AP classes or dual enrollment classes out of Annandale, because you offer not only the full IB program, but a lot of other weighted courses, especially honors too. And so for us, seeing that challenging, rigorous coursework shows that you're unafraid of a challenge. Maybe you get a B in that class or something, but you rose to the occasion and you took that class. And as a result, you're going to be much better prepared to take that next step, because I kind of joke, but college is kind of like taking 5 IB classes a semester. It is rigorous. And so it's a really good idea to do while it's free, at Annandale, and you're kind of in the safety of your home. You're stepping a toe into those rigorous waters and really preparing yourself. And there's always a potential for college credit through either your AP or IB exams or dual enrollment transfer credit. So everyone's going to have a different ranking priority breakdown, things that people value more than others. And everything on the transcript, the holistic review means we're going to look at the balance of, your grades, your classes, your involvement, the essays, everything all kind of speaks to one big puzzle of you. And before I got 2.5 minutes. This is very exciting. So there is also something extracurriculars I want to focus on a little bit too. While we really want to see quality things, and your extracurricular may simply be you care for your siblings after school and you don't have the funds to be involved in extracurriculars, or you have a job. And I want you all to highlight those things, because those are so important, and not everybody has the opportunity to do extracurriculars. And even still now in the pandemic, your comfort level is going to be different. We know that right now, everyone watching, your sophomore year was virtual, and we know that everything was so challenging during those times. So 2-minute warning. So we really want to make sure that you understand that extracurriculars, especially at JMU, are extra. We want, if you're an Eagle Scout and have 1 million hours of community service, that doesn't outweigh poor academics, at least for us. You've got to have the academics first and be able to balance all that involvement all together, because that's really what college is. You're balancing your academics. Academics have to come first in college, or they're going to say, hey, it's time to go. And so you've got to make sure you can balance those academics with your extracurriculars, with your life, your friends, and your family. And learning to navigate that is a big part of your junior year and your senior year. And this is my blessing to you all too. I've been saying to students, if say the night before you're going to swim practice or key club the next day and you're kind of dreading it, ask yourself, why am I doing this? I really encourage you to focus on 1 or 2 things where you're going to maybe be a leader, or it really brings you some joy and passion, and cut the fluff. I promise you, being a member that goes to Spanish club every other month is not the thing that's going to get you into college. It may be ultimately a detriment in the long run, because it's taking away time from homework and things like that. So I really want you to take to heart that academics are really important, and extracurriculars are just kind of that extra icing on the cake for us. So Hopefully that helps. I'm going to restart and try to pop back on it.
This is like, this whole thing is like an episode of Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I know. And I've never had this happen to me.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I love hearing from you guys to this, because these are the messages I pass on to kids. The extracurriculars are a way to show who you are and what you care about. You know, if you're doing things that you love, you know, and again, I mean, the kids that have done coding or music on their own and they're not, you know, building these things up at school, those are just as valid as activities as, you know, something through the school or something that requires a lot of time, or an honor society this or honor society that it's really, we want people to show and pursue things that they are interested in. Like, there's nothing better, not just for getting into college, because people do these things thinking like this is what will impress colleges, but just for your benefit and your own, like, where you're going, doing things you care about will look the best because they're authentic and they're really showing off that. Michelle or Kelly, do you want to talk about either way? That what I did not mention that, but I should have. That yes, IB, like the challenging classes and how you do in those classes is always going to be kind of first. But do you have any comments to after what Jamie was saying?
Yeah, I would say I would echo a lot of the similar things Mason, that Mason looks at very similar things as well in terms of, you know, academics is important, but it's not just, at least for us, it's not just about what your GPA is, but how did you get to that GPA? And recognizing that, you know, it's also in the context of your own school. So again, kind of going back to this notion of Northern Virginia as a very, you know, very competitive area. But we're not going to compare you in Annandale to a student from a different school. We're looking at you in the context of your surroundings. And it also means like what it means for you. So if you're not someone who's super great in the math and sciences, maybe you don't need to take AP, you know, calculus or whatever. You should focus on the courses, you know, do those rigorous coursework that is going to be best suited for you, because you don't want to be in an AP calculus class your senior year and getting a D in your first semester kind of thing. That's not going to be something great to show when we get those final transcripts or anything like that. So I think, you know, I would echo kind of a lot of what Jamie said. And again, just reiterate, we also recognize context, and that could mean for your academics, but it could also mean you know, just what your situation has been in life and things like that. So we do consider context of your situation, but the only way we can understand and know context is if you provide that to us. So it's making sure that if something is really important for you, for us to understand and know about you, it's making sure that you put that on your application. Or if you forget to, it's getting in touch with your admissions representative, so that can be added to your application kind of thing. So I think that's something that I would just add from Mason's perspective.
Yeah, and how you spend your time is very important. So as far as like, just don't do a club because you think we're going to be impressed by it. Just reiterating all of that. I think the earlier you can realize how important your time is, probably the better the rest of your high school experience can be, the better your college experience can be. So if you don't like a subject, as far as like, you know, think about what you want to major in, think about what you want to go into and everything, and really pay attention to those things. If you like it and if you feel like the time just passes by quickly when you're doing it, maybe listen to that. So, and this is kind of like from experience, because there are times when I think we get into this place where we feel like, well, we should do this. And then it's like, well, why? And then it's like, because we should. It's like, no. Do you like it? So yeah, challenging yourself in those subjects, just like Kelly was saying, the subjects that you enjoy, see if you can go, you know, above and beyond with those particular subjects. Try to really reduce that misery aspect as far as, you know, with the courses that you're deciding to take that you enjoy, because you will likely do better in those courses also. Then with those extracurriculars, really brag on yourself. What are things that you like everyone has been saying, what are things that you like to do? But then also sometimes there are things that maybe you don't like to do, but that are like familiar responsibilities. That's how you're spending your time though. So just tell us about those things.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully you guys would agree, but I think the question from Alejandra in the chat was about volunteering, and that's taking care of kids, other children at school or through PTA. Any service activities are definitely considered extracurricular, and they all will speak positively for you if that's how you spend your time, and it's through your church or through any kind of service or community activities. But just to go back, it's still, you do the things because you care about them, and doing things for other people and doing things for a cause, or if it's taking care of responsibilities at home. I mean, I think any students that have jobs and, being able to show that you've taken on responsibilities and you have more, on your plate that you do, that doesn't have to be a club or anything, but I guess I always want to repeat that because I see that students kind of underestimate the things they do spend their time on for what they think is what will be more impressive. But if you're doing things that matter to you, that matter to your family, those are really important, and they can say a lot about you and what you're doing. So that is actually like all of my main subjects. I know we had said 7:50 and we're just about to hit there, and we actually thought we were going to be done by 7:30, but I really appreciate it. Is there any other last minute questions from any of our audience members? We still have some people left, but if not, I think I'm going to let you guys go. I'll stop the recording in a second. But truly want to thank all three of you, Michelle, Jamie, and Kelly. Especially, this was kind of a weird one as far as everything going well, but it's so valuable for me and for these students to hear things directly from the colleges, because there's so much misunderstanding and the way people talk to each other. And again, like, just being able to get that information directly from you is super valuable. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Yes. Thanks a lot. Everybody that's here, if you jumped in late, we will be posting this video on the Annandale College and Career Google site. So look for that in the near future. And otherwise, I think we're good to go. So thank you all. And everybody have a good night. Jamie, welcome back. Time.
I made it.
Made it back just so we could appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. And thanks all the families who attended too.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Yeah, it's always such a good, such a great use of time. And like I said, it really helps me too, and being able to have these conversations with you guys. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
You are free. Enjoy the rest of your nights.
Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.